In life, there are invisible laws that govern every outcome we experience. Laws that work whether we understand them or not. Just as gravity pulls without permission and seasons change without warning, success, too, follows its own laws. And one of the most powerful, often overlooked, and yet unbreakable among them is the law of averages, the mathematics of success. It quietly governs your results, your progress, your failures, and your victories. Most people never study it, but it's always studying them. It measures every effort you make, counts every seed you plant, and balances every result you earn. It never cheats, it never forgets, and it never fails. The law of averages simply says this: if you do enough of the right things, consistently enough, the numbers will always work in your favor. Think about it. Every farmer knows that not every seed will grow, but if he plants enough of them, the harvest is guaranteed. Every salesperson knows that not every call will lead to a sale, but if they make enough calls, the results will appear. Every athlete knows that not every shot will score, but with enough attempts, the points add up. This is the secret rhythm of life, the quiet math behind success. Yet, most people quit before the averages have a chance to show up. They plant a few seeds, face a few rejections, and then call the process unfair. They judge the law by their impatience. But the law only reveals itself to those who give it enough numbers to count. The law of averages is not about luck. It's about volume and consistency. It doesn't reward emotion. It rewards effort. It doesn't respond to how badly you want something. It responds to how consistently you work for it. Life doesn't pay for wishing, it pays for working. When you understand this, your whole perspective changes. You stop complaining when things don't happen fast enough. You stop fearing rejection. You stop doubting yourself after failure. Because you finally realize failure is not the end. It's simply part of the equation. Every no brings you closer to a yes. Every fall brings you closer to mastery. Every attempt brings you closer to balance. You see, the law is not emotional. It doesn't care whether you're rich or poor, confident or afraid. It only responds to action. You can't bribe it with good intentions, and you can't trick it with shortcuts. The only currency it accepts is effort, multiplied by time. The more you give, the more it gives back. The less you do, the less it has to work with. And the beauty of this law is that it's fair. It doesn't play favorites. It doesn't discriminate. It works for everyone, the dreamer and the doubter, the hopeful and the hesitant, as long as they're willing to act. But here's the catch. Most people never stay long enough in the process to let the averages unfold. They give up too soon, just before the numbers start balancing. They stop calling, stop trying, stop showing up because they can't yet see the invisible math at work. Imagine a miner digging for gold who quits 1 foot before striking the vein. That's how most people live, always close but never consistent. They don't realize that the law is already counting their effort, already preparing the reward, already aligning the odds, but it needs them to keep going. The law only works when you work it. Once you understand this truth, your mindset changes from emotional to mathematical. You stop asking, "Why did I fail?" and start asking, "How many times have I tried?" You stop wondering if success is possible and start calculating when it will happen. You stop being afraid of the odds and start trusting them. Because when you know your averages, you can predict your progress. You can measure your growth. You can take control of your destiny. The law of averages gives you confidence, because it proves that as long as you keep acting, success becomes inevitable. Every successful person you admire, every leader, athlete, or entrepreneur, has built their results on this invisible foundation. They didn't rely on miracles. They relied on mathematics. They just kept showing up long enough for the law to balance in their favor. And that's the difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary, not talent, not timing, but consistency. The law of averages doesn't ask for perfection. It only asks for persistence. It's the quiet voice that says, "Keep going, it's working." It's the unseen force that turns small daily actions into massive long-term success. And once you embrace it, life stops feeling random. It starts feeling predictable. You stop hoping for success and you start expecting it. Because you finally understand. The universe may seem mysterious, but success is simply a matter of numbers. So remember this, you don't need to win every time, you just need to keep playing. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be consistent. Because the law of averages always rewards the one who refuses to stop. It's not luck, it's not chance, it's math. And in the mathematics of success, your persistence is the equation, and your victory is the answer. Introduction, the hidden equation of success. Every life follows a pattern. Every result has a cause. Every outcome can be traced back to the rhythm of effort repeated over time. Yet most people go through life thinking success is luck, failure is fate, and opportunity belongs only to the chosen few. But life doesn't work that way. The universe is far too consistent, far too mathematical to operate on luck alone. There is a law that quietly governs every result. A law as old as time itself, the law of averages. It's the invisible equation behind every victory, every breakthrough, every transformation. It says that if you do something often enough, the numbers will always work in your favor. It doesn't matter who you are, where you start, or how many times you've failed. If you keep showing up, the odds eventually bend toward you. Success is not a secret. It's a sequence. It's not a miracle. It's a formula. And once you understand this law, you stop waiting for luck and start trusting the numbers. You begin to see that life is a game of ratios. Some things work, some don't, but over time, effort always finds its balance. The farmer doesn't cry over one bad seed. He plants 100 more because he knows the averages will protect him. The athlete doesn't quit after one missed shot. She keeps shooting because she knows her skill improves with every attempt. The entrepreneur doesn't stop after 10 rejections. He keeps calling because he knows the law will reward consistency. The law of averages doesn't promise perfection. It promises predictability. It doesn't guarantee that every attempt will succeed, but it guarantees that success becomes inevitable for the one who refuses to stop. The secret to wealth, growth, mastery, and happiness lies in understanding that the law never fails. It only waits for you to give it enough tries to prove itself. This principle explains why ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things. It turns effort into certainty, persistence into progress, and failure into feedback. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. You'll stop judging your life by single results and start judging it by consistent motion. You'll learn to count your efforts, not your excuses. You'll begin to see that every no carries you closer to yes. That every failure is part of your math, that every setback has purpose. Because when you understand the law of averages, life stops being random and starts being reliable. Part 1. The foundation of the law. The law of averages begins with one simple truth. Effort compounds. Every action you take adds to a larger equation that time will eventually balance. The first time you try, it may not work. The second time, it may still fall flat. But if you keep acting, keep learning, and keep improving, the law begins to reveal itself. You start to notice patterns, what works, what doesn't, when success comes easier, when rejection feels harder. The numbers begin to talk to you. Success, then, is not about guessing, it's about gathering data through consistent activity. The person who makes one attempt and fails learns nothing. But the person who makes 50 attempts discovers a ratio. Maybe 1 in 10 works, maybe 2 in 20, but either way, the pattern emerges. And once you see that pattern, something changes in your mind. You realize success isn't luck. It's just math. Imagine a farmer planting seeds. He knows not every seed will sprout. Some will dry up, some will wash away, some will never see sunlight. But he doesn't stop planting because of a few bad seeds. Why? Because he understands the averages. He knows that if he plants enough, the harvest will always come. That's the wisdom of the farmer, and it's the same wisdom that builds successful lives, businesses, and legacies. The average person gets discouraged too soon. They expect immediate reward from limited effort. They plant one seed and want a full harvest. They make 3 calls and feel rejected. They post 2 videos and wonder why the world isn't watching. But the law doesn't respond to impatience, it responds to volume. You must give it numbers to work with. You must stay in the game long enough for the pattern to appear. And that's where most people fail. They never give the law enough time to prove itself. They judge the entire process by one small moment of disappointment. But the winners, the ones who rise, understand that failure is not a verdict. It's a variable in the equation. They know that every no has value, that every rejection moves them closer to the next yes. The law can't fail. It can only wait for you to do your part. The first step toward mastering the law of averages is activity. Movement. Effort. Not just thinking, not just wishing, doing. Because no averages can appear if you never begin. You cannot win a game you refuse to play. Every conversation, every opportunity, every attempt counts. It doesn't matter how small. The more attempts you make, the more data the law has to balance. Eventually, your persistence becomes your power. Remember this. The law of averages rewards motion, not perfection. You don't need every attempt to succeed, you just need to keep adding attempts. The math will take care of the rest. Over time, the scales tip toward those who stay consistent. That's the foundation of the law, and it never fails. Part 2: The Power of Persistence. Once you understand the foundation, the second part of the law reveals itself. Persistence. The law of averages doesn't work for those who quit early. It only rewards those who stay long enough for the ratios to unfold. You see, persistence is what unlocks the law's true potential. It turns statistics into certainty. It transforms random effort into predictable progress. Persistence is not just about endurance, it's about belief. Belief that effort always pays off, even when the results are slow. Belief that the law is working behind the scenes, balancing your numbers while you keep showing up. Most people never see the payoff because they stop before the averages appear. They make 10 attempts, get discouraged, and walk away, not realizing that the next 5 could have brought their breakthrough. Think of baseball. Even the best hitters fail more often than they succeed. A player who hits 3 times out of 10 is considered great. If he judged himself by one game, he'd quit. But he doesn't. He trusts the law. He knows his average will rise over time because he keeps stepping up to the plate. That's the power of persistence. It gives the law time to prove itself. The same applies to business, relationships, and growth. You may get 9 rejections before 1 acceptance, 9 losses before 1 win, 9 failures before 1 success. But if you keep going, that one will always come. The law guarantees it. The only question is whether you'll stay long enough to collect it. Persistence also changes how you see rejection. Instead of taking no as failure, you begin to see it as part of the math. If your ratio is 1 in 10, then every no is progress. Each rejection brings you closer to the next yes. Once you think like this, fear disappears. You stop dreading failure and start counting it as part of your journey. And here's the secret. The more you persist, the better your averages become. Effort improves skill. Skill improves results. The ratio begins to tilt in your favor. What was once 1 in 10 becomes 2 in 10, then 3 in 10. Persistence doesn't just prove the law, it strengthens it. Most people give up in the dark, never realizing dawn was minutes away. But those who persist discover something magical. The law of averages never lies. It rewards consistency. It honors courage. And it guarantees that time plus effort always equals results. The pattern is there, waiting to be revealed. You just have to stay long enough to see it. Part 3: The Gift of Predictability. Once you've given enough effort, the law begins to reveal its secret gift, predictability. This is where the mystery of success fades, and clarity takes its place. You no longer feel lost in uncertainty. You begin to see patterns, ratios, and measurable outcomes. You can finally say with confidence, if I do this many actions, I'll get this many results. That's the moment your work becomes science, not guesswork. Most people live in confusion because they never collect enough data for life to show them the pattern. They try something once or twice, fail, and say it doesn't work. But those who persist long enough to see the numbers unfold unlock a kind of certainty that others never find. They stop living on hope, they start living on proof. Predictability is freedom. It means you no longer depend on luck or emotions. You don't wake up wondering whether today will be good or bad. You know the numbers will always balance. You trust the process because you've tested it. You've seen the averages appear, and that brings calm. You no longer panic after a no. You simply count it as part of the ratio. This is the same principle that makes casinos rich. The house doesn't win every spin, every roll, or every hand. But over time, the averages always favor the house. They don't get emotional about temporary losses because they understand the math. The casino knows that consistency, not luck, ensures victory. The same is true in life. When you understand your averages, you stop chasing miracles and start trusting mathematics. If your ratio is 1 in 10, then every 10 attempts will bring a success. That's not fantasy. That's formula. So what does that mean? It means your job is not to control the outcome. Your job is to increase activity. If you want more wins, make more attempts. If you want more yes, face more numbers. The more data you give to the law, the more it works in your favor. Predictability is powerful because it removes fear. You no longer see rejection as personal, you see it as progress. Every step, every call, every try becomes a necessary part of your numbers. You begin to say, every no gets me closer, and that belief gives you stamina. It gives you peace. It gives you control over the one thing that always matters, effort. And here's the beautiful truth. Once you know your averages, you can plan your success. If you know 1 in 5 people say yes and you need 10 clients, then you know you must talk to 50. That's not uncertainty. That's clarity. You don't have to wish anymore. You can calculate. That's how professionals think. They don't hope to win. They work until the math says they will. The law of averages removes the mystery from success. It turns fear into focus, emotion into action, and chaos into confidence. It's not luck that builds empires. It's predictable effort, multiplied by time, guided by persistence. And once you master it, you stop asking if success will come and start asking when, because the when is always guaranteed by the law. Part 4. Applying the law in real life. Understanding the law of averages is one thing, living it is another. Knowledge without application is like planting seeds and never watering them. So how do you apply this law to your life, your work, your dreams? The answer lies in 4 simple steps. Track, test, trust, and transform. First, track your actions. Don't guess. Don't assume. Write it down. How many calls did you make? How many doors did you knock? How many times did you practice your craft? Numbers never lie. Once you begin tracking, you'll start to see your ratio appear. Maybe it's 1 in 5, maybe 1 in 10, whatever it is, that's your personal average. And knowing your average gives you control. Second, test it through consistent effort. Don't test the law with small attempts. The law doesn't work for dabblers. You can't make 3 efforts and expect the universe to reveal the pattern. The law needs repetition, volume, time. You must give it something to measure. That's why you can't give up after small numbers. Keep showing up until the averages begin to form. Third, trust the process. This is where emotional discipline comes in. Don't panic when results seem slow. Don't complain when no shows up more than yes. The law is still balancing the numbers. Just because you can't see the progress doesn't mean it isn't happening. Every action adds weight to your side of the scale. Eventually, the scale tips in your favor not because of luck, but because of mathematics. Finally, transform your mindset. Stop expecting perfection and start respecting persistence. When you think like a mathematician of success, you understand that each attempt counts, no matter how small. You realize that no is not rejection. It's a number. Failure is not an end, it's a data point. And consistency is not boring. It's powerful. Because the moment you embrace repetition, you activate the law. So if you want to change your life, stop counting your failures and start counting your attempts. Don't judge yourself by one day's results. Judge yourself by your continued activity. Because success doesn't belong to the lucky, it belongs to the consistent. The law will never fail you. It will only wait for you to act. The great truth is this: you don't need to be extraordinary to win. You just need to stay active long enough for the law to do its work. The person who stays in motion, who keeps planting, keeps trying, keeps improving, that person becomes unstoppable. The numbers will always bend toward persistence. So don't fear rejection. Don't stop after failure. Don't wait for perfect timing. Just move. Try. Give the law something to measure. Because once you do, success stops being a question of if, and becomes a matter of when. And when that happens, your life will no longer be ruled by chance. It will be guided by certainty. Because the law of averages never lies, never fails, and never forgets the one who keeps showing up.